Have you been arguing with people who never wanted to understand you? The dangerous cost of disputing foolish people. Welcome back, everyone. LanceScurv X here, the Scurv podcast, LanceScurvX.com. I want to explore this because this question pretty much summed it up. Before you walk into another room, another conversation, another relationship, or another argument, you need to understand one truth that most people are too afraid to say out loud. Your greatest enemy is not failure. It's not competition. It's not even your own fear. The greatest danger to your peace of mind is constantly giving your mental energy to people who have no intention of growing, changing, listening, or understanding. Some people will drain your spirit simply because chaos is the only language they understand. They move through life reacting instead of thinking. They argue instead of listening. They defend instead of reflecting. And the tragedy is that intelligent and caring people often suffer the most around these kinds of individuals because they believe every problem can be solved through patience, logic, honesty, and communication. But life teaches a brutal lesson sooner or later. Not everybody wants clarity. Not everybody wants peace. Not everybody wants truth. Some people are emotionally attached to confusion because confusion protects them from accountability. The moment truth enters the room, it threatens the version of themselves they have worked hard to defend for years. That is why so many intelligent people walk around emotionally exhausted, not because they're weak, but because they keep trying to carry conversations that were dead before they even started. They keep trying to explain reality to people who are committed to misunderstanding it. They keep trying to pour wisdom into minds that have already decided they do not want it. And what makes this even more painful is that intelligent people usually believe they can fix the situation if they just explain things one more time. They think the next sentence will finally break through. They think the next example will make the other person understand. But instead of progress, they find themselves trapped in endless circles that drain their energy, their focus, and eventually their peace. Every pointless argument costs you something. Every emotional battle steals a piece of your mental clarity. Every unnecessary debate pulls energy away from your goals, your health, your peace, and your future. Most people never calculate this invisible tax because they're too busy reacting to it. You can always tell when someone has spent too much time around foolishness. Their patience gets shorter. Their temper gets quicker. Their mind becomes scattered. Their focus disappears. They start operating emotionally instead of strategically. And before they realize it, the chaos around them has slowly become chaos inside of them. This is why emotional discipline matters more than raw intelligence. Intelligence without discipline becomes frustration. Intelligence without emotional control becomes exhaustion. Intelligence without boundaries becomes self-destruction. The smartest people in the world can still ruin their lives if they allow the wrong people unlimited access to their attention. Most arguments are not actually about facts. They're about ego. The moment a person feels intellectually threatened, the conversation stops being about truth and becomes about survival. That is why some people get louder instead of wiser. That is why they interrupt, deflect, insult, and attack personally. They are no longer defending an idea. They are defending their pride. And once a conversation reaches that level, logic no longer matters. Facts no longer matter. Evidence no longer matters. You are no longer speaking to a mind that wants understanding. You're speaking to a wounded ego trying to protect itself from exposure. That is why wise people learn something powerful very early. Not every battle deserves your energy. Not every person deserves an explanation. Not every misunderstanding deserves correction. Some situations become healthier the moment you stop trying to win them. There's a major difference between someone who does not know better and someone who refuses to know better. That distinction changes everything. A person who lacks knowledge can grow. A person who lacks awareness can learn. A person who is honestly confused can eventually understand if they're willing to listen. Those conversations are worth having because growth is possible. But chosen stupidity is something entirely different. Chosen stupidity happens when a person has already seen the truth but rejects it because accepting it would require responsibility, maturity, humility, or change. And for many people, change feels more threatening than remaining broken. These people do not argue to learn. They argue to defend the comfort of staying the same. They ask questions not because they're curious, but because they want to delay accountability. They pretend to listen while mentally preparing their next emotional reaction. And this is where intelligent people lose themselves. They mistake performance for sincerity. They believe the other person is genuinely trying to understand, when in reality, the conversation is only being used as emotional theater. Some people do not want solutions because solutions would end the drama they used to define themselves. Chaos has become part of their identity. Victimhood has become part of their personality. Confusion has become their comfort zone. And when you understand this, you stop taking their resistance personally. That realization is freeing because it teaches you that not every broken person is your responsibility. Just because you can see the problem does not mean you are assigned to fix it. Never forget that. One of the biggest mistakes empathetic people make is believing love means endless tolerance. They think caring about someone means constantly rescuing them from the consequences of their own choices. But eventually, this becomes emotional slavery. You start sacrificing your peace, trying to save people who are comfortable drowning in their own dysfunction. You spend years giving advice that's ignored. You spend years repeating truths that are rejected. You spend years emotionally investing in people who only change long enough to keep you from walking away. And the exhaustion that comes from this is deep. It is not physical tiredness. It is soul exhaustion. It is the kind of fatigue that comes from constantly pouring into people who have no intention of becoming whole. The painful truth is that some people enjoy being broken because brokenness allows them to avoid responsibility. If they heal, they must change. If they change, they must grow. If they grow, they must confront the damage they caused while they were asleep emotionally. This is why some people fight healing with everything inside of them. Healing threatens the identity they built around pain, excuses, pride, and denial. You must learn the difference between helping someone and drowning beside them. One is compassion, the other is self-abandonment disguised as loyalty. The strongest people are not the ones who can tolerate endless dysfunction. The strongest people are the ones who know when to walk away from it. Most intelligent people keep suffering because they operate through expectations instead of systems. They expect people to mature. They expect honesty. They expect accountability. They expect consistency. And every time reality fails to match those expectations, disappointment crushes them all over again. A system says you will no longer allow certain behaviors unlimited access to your energy. A system says you already know what certain people are capable of, so you stop expecting miracles from minds committed to dysfunction. A system protects your peace whether the other person changes or not. That means limiting conversations that always become toxic. That means refusing to argue once disrespect enters the room. That means creating emotional boundaries that protect your mental clarity. That means recognizing patterns early instead of hoping they disappear later. Wise people stop wanting for chaos to become peaceful. Instead, they design lives where chaos has limited access to them. That shift changes everything psychologically, because once you stop depending on other people to behave correctly in order for you to maintain peace, you become emotionally free. You stop waking up emotionally controlled by unpredictable people. You stop allowing your mood to rise and fall based on someone else's dysfunction. You stop begging for understanding from minds committed to misunderstanding you. And in that freedom, something powerful happens. Your clarity returns. There is a level of power that most people will never understand because they are addicted to reacting. They think strength means speaking louder. They think dominance means winning arguments. They think control means forcing people to admit they were wrong. But true power often looks like silence. Not weak silence, not fearful silence, deliberate silence. The kind of silence that comes from realizing you no longer need to prove yourself to people who are emotionally committed to confusion. When someone tries to provoke you and you refuse to react emotionally, you take away their control. Their strategy collapses because it depended on your reaction. They expected anger. They expected defensiveness. They expected emotional chaos. But instead, they meet calmness, restraint, and emotional distance. That silence becomes a mirror. It forces them to sit with their own behavior without your emotional reaction distracting from it. And many people cannot tolerate that reflection. Silence also protects your energy. Every unnecessary argument avoided is energy preserved for your purposes, your growth, your health, your creativity, and your future. Because at some point, maturity teaches you that peace is more valuable than being understood by everybody. And once you truly understand that, your entire life changes. The older and wiser you become, the more you realize that protecting your mind is one of the most important responsibilities you have. Your attention is valuable, your emotional energy is valuable, your clarity is valuable. Stop handing those things out carelessly to people who only return confusion. You do not need to attend every argument you are invited to. You do not need to defend yourself against every misunderstanding. You do not need to exhaust yourself proving obvious truths to people determined to reject them. Some people are committed to remaining exactly where they are, and no amount of intelligence, patience, or love from you will change a person who has already decided not to change themselves. That does not make you cruel for stepping back. It does not make you arrogant for protecting your peace. It does not make you heartless for refusing to continue emotionally draining cycles that lead nowhere. Your life becomes lighter the moment you stop trying to carry people who are committed to sinking. Your mind becomes clearer the moment you stop feeding energy into pointless battles. Your energy becomes stronger the moment you realize that your greatest responsibility is not fixing everyone else. It is protecting the health of your own spirit. And in a world filled with noise, manipulation, emotional chaos, and endless distractions, one of the greatest forms of intelligence is learning when to speak, when to walk away, and when silence says everything that words never could. I'm going to leave it at that. Let me know what you think. I'm glad that you're here. I hope you absorb something good. LanceScurv out. On to the next one. Peace.